full meal deal at Dairy Queen. You get a juicy single hamburger served up just right, golden French fries, your favorite soft drink, and a 5-ounce Dairy Queen sundae. The full meal deal is a deal of a meal. Only $1.79 right now at Dairy Queen.
In the land of Dairy Queen, we treat you right.
Jeff Renner, weather. King 5 News tonight.
It was a groundbreaking ceremony in 1979. For Dorothy Bullitt, it marked only the latest chapter in her impressive career and in the history of her television station. The daughter of the prominent C.D. Stimson family of Seattle, Dorothy Stimson married Scott Bullitt, himself a powerful business figure, in 1918. But following his death in 1932, Dorothy Bullitt decided to learn the business of business for herself. It led in 1947 to her purchase of a struggling radio station, which she soon named KING. It was a risky proposition, but just 2 years later, the fledgling King Broadcasting Company diversified even further, acquiring the FM and television properties of KRSC. It was the first sale of a television station in the country. And if Dorothy Bullitt found radio a precarious business, television seemed even more so.
It was very chancy, and I was very much afraid of it, but I thought we could maybe swing it.
In 1948, Channel 5 was only the 11th television station in the United States, and the only one west of the Mississippi and north of San Francisco. With perhaps only a few thousand TV sets existing in all of the Northwest, Dorothy Bullitt and her young Channel 5 faced a formidable challenge, creating public interest in a flickering new medium. From the station's very first broadcast of a high school football game, much of the imagination for the task belonged to a young New Yorker named Lee Shulman.
And indeed, on a very rainy day, from the stadium down at the foot of Queen Anne Hill, the very first program that we did, our audio cables ran through quite a number of puddles of water. And the hum that we had on the air that day was nothing that we were proud of. And you put up with those kinds of challenges every time you went on the air.
Every time I hear.
From the relatively uncomplicated studio telecasts of the popular local singer Mercedes to the challenging live broadcasts from remote locations, Channel 5 from the start began creating bold standards for local television production.
You know what was wonderful? The engineers, the production people, creative individuals who were involved knew that they were only as good as what they were able to do at that moment, and to think about how to make it better the next time.
Welcome, ladies, to Timex Quartz. Incredible elegance, uncanny accuracy. In nearly 100 styles, the beauty of Timex Quartz.
People say the nicest things. People do the nicest things. I met a little girl, a 6-year-old named Yvonne. She was one of the cutest little kids I've ever seen. And it was an absolute delight to be able to have a chance to talk to her. That's one of the real pleasures of the job. People will feel like they know you, and it's nice to have a chance to know people well enough and have them feel like they know you well enough that they'll share things with you. Not just news stories, but the things that they care a lot about.
Gene Anderson, King 5 News. I want more bits, more bits, more bits in my kibbles and bits, more bits, more bits in my kibbles and bits, more bits, more bits in my kibbles and bits, in my kibbles and bits.
Introducing Kibbles and Bits and Bits and Bits. New crunchy bits, new chewy bits, more new and different kinds of taste than ever before. New
Kibbles and bits and bits and bits.
New Kibbles and Bits and Bits and Bits. Now more bits in every bite.
More bits.
Tammy Wynette and I have gone on record for Kids and Scholarships, and your purchase of this limited edition album will be music to the ears of deserving students.
It's nearly 9 on a weekday morning at the King TV studios. Channel 5's morning program, Good Company, will soon go on the air, live.
15 seconds.
From the beginning, live television and the challenges it presents have been an integral part of King TV's broadcasting philosophy. Since the 1950s, Channel 5 has been synonymous with hydroplane racing. But the sophisticated telecasts of recent years stand in striking contrast to the challenges of early television.
Needless to say, one of the most important things that we had to face was how do you cover it? It never had been done on television. Two wonderful engineers, Earl Toms, Al Smith, invented what was the predecessor to the very long television lens, a 100-inch lens. And by doing that, it was possible for us to integrate into our coverage really good and exciting close-up shots. No one was around to tell us how to do it. We just decided that that was the way we could use television electronic pictures to tell stories that had never been told before.
Al Stenson is an award-winning producer-photographer at King TV today. In the early 1950s, he was a Channel 5 floor director.
Well, one of the most memorable of the shows of the early days, it was a variety show called March On. It featured a number of the people from the various services around the Puget Sound area, and it was directed by Lee Schulman. He really stretched capabilities of the station, of our production facilities, to the absolute limit, and it was interesting.
Another live local effort was broadcast from different locations every week.
Success Story, an on-the-spot live telecast.
The basic purpose of Success Story is to present from real life the opportunities inherent in our system of free enterprise.
Success Story went on location to scores of Northwest factories and businesses. Always new and always live. But not surprisingly, King's ambitious live broadcasting did not always result in successful and exciting live television.
There are some 26 technicians and production people who've been going most of the night so that you could come along with us as we look for the Earth satellite Sputnik and its accompanying rocket.
The anticipation was great. The cameras were ready.
This is an intense, exciting moment because we have so little time to actually see.
There was no sign of Sputnik that morning.
Well, I don't know. We haven't seen it, but we sure tried.
Lee Schulman.
One of the most prominent personalities, one of the most wonderful women I've ever had the pleasure of knowing, was Bea Donovan.
At this time, King's Queen invites you to the King Television Kitchen.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Andy B, as she was known, was so popular that before somebody would even think about a recipe, it was very common to say, I wonder what Andy B would be doing.
Al Houston, today King TV's studio chief, was a cameraman on King's Queen.
Yeah, Bea was one of those unique persons that, she could talk and work at the same time, which was, I guess if you're a homemaker, it isn't all that easy.
She made certain that there was always enough so that when the show was finished, every cameraman, every floor director, anybody that was around would just dive into Bea's marvelous cooking. And indeed, the calorie count never was given any consideration.
Today, Bea Donovan is still active in her own kitchen and recalls the unpredictable days of live television at King.
One time I was doing a show and the kitchen door opened and in comes the man from the gas company. And right across the front of his hat here he had all these union buttons. And he says, "Hello, I hear you have a little trouble with your gas." And I said, "Well, yes, but I'm on the air right now." "Oh, yeah." And then he kept on funny. I said, "Well, I'm on the air." And he was, oh my God. And then he went out. The boys that were working there at that time, the cameramen, floor directors, and they got to be my security blanket in many, many ways. Sometimes when I couldn't think of anything else to say, I'd start talking to them. To this day, when I go shopping, I have people stop and talk to me. They still ask me about recipes. It makes me feel good when people remember me when I've been off from television as long as I have.
I think maybe I was a little heavy on the red.
Coming to make you a real deal on the full meal deal at Dairy Queen. You get a juicy single hamburger served up just right, golden French fries, your favorite soft drink, and a 5-ounce Dairy Queen sundae. The full meal deal is a deal of a meal. Only $1.79 right now at Dairy Queen.
In the land of Dairy Queen, we treat you right.
Nuclear war is a subject most people would rather ignore. Instead of talking about their nuclear anxieties, many people try to avoid the subject altogether. But the fears are very real, and the denial of these fears can be dangerous and lead to despair. It's only through the healthy process of confronting our emotions that we can come to terms with these fears and find ways to go beyond them. Physicians for Social Responsibility is ready to help. Call 632-9246.
Back in 1948, nobody really knew if television was here to stay. But King TV came on the air that year to pioneer a long tradition of service to Seattle and Tacoma that continues today. Another tradition began then, too, when King TV named Blair Television as its national sales representative. And we've been working together ever since. And that's why the men and women of Blair Television all across America join tonight in congratulating King TV on its 35th anniversary. They really know how to serve their community.
At King Television today, news is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week business. Microwaves, satellites, and large staffs seem an indispensable part of any modern TV news operation. But for a station with a 35-year history, it is an especially long and amazing reach.
I came to the station in 1950, hired on...
Del Loader is a program traffic supervisor at King TV today. Not far up the hill from Channel 5's current building, Loader recalls the station's first site.
Corner of 3rd and Gaylor in 1948 was an old white frame grocery store. We converted that to the first studios of KRSC-TV. In that building, the first studio programs were conducted.
Before long, the station was moved to larger facilities. Then, King moved to another location on Aurora Avenue, a building which today comprises only part of Channel 5's present facility. Some of King's earliest newscasters, like Richard Ross and Ted Bryant, have remained in television news. But Channel 5's very first newsman, Charles Herring, is no longer on the side of the camera that made him famous.
You know, the original newsroom...
After leaving King in the late 1960s, Herring today is a film and video producer for the Boeing Company.
I think the first show was September 17th of 1951. It was at 6:45 at night, one show a day. 6:45 to 7, and the total staff of 2 or 3, and counting the director, who was Bernie Carey, and Ed Racine was the cameraman, and I, and the 3 of us physically put the show together.
Through the long early years of television, Charles Herring was the dean of Northwest TV newsmen. Whether anchoring a newscast or announcing election returns, he was reliable and unflappable. But the demands of a visual medium called for considerable resourcefulness behind the scenes. Al Stenson.
The key to the news operation was that it was small, and we would go out and do our own stories alone. There were times when I could, if I was really careful, I could come back with 3 stories on one 100-foot roll of film. Sometimes the scenes would come up precisely where I had figured, or I guessed they would, and you just kept going, and I was able to get 3 stories on one roll of film in those days. You can't do that now.
A very big highlight for me was KING's coverage of the Dave Beck hearings before the Senate Rackets Committee in Washington. Again, you've got to put yourself back in 1957 for a station on the West Coast in particular to get something live from the East just for it alone was unheard of. The station, through Lee Shulman and through the late Otto Brandt, who was Vice President and General Manager, set up a network of stations. It was big enough to make Time magazine. The fact that a local station had started its own network just for this one thing.
In the late 1950s, Herring recalls a special news production that was broadcast live for the opening of the Dalles Dam.
One thing I do recall specifically about that, that has stuck with me, it shows how you can put your foot in your mouth without knowing you've done it. There was an Indian burial ground which was to be flooded when the waters backed up behind the Dalles Dam. The Army Corps of Engineers had moved the Indian graves to higher ground. I was talking to this man from the Army Engineers about how all this had been carried out. I did loud and clear say to him as a rejoinder, that must have been a grave undertaking, and never cracked a smile.
Beyond the commitment to daily news, King was establishing a nationwide reputation for community service. Community Workshop began the longest continuous run of any program in the area. In the late 1950s, the first of a long and distinguished line of King News documentaries, Lost Cargo, a tradition was started.
Everything connected with the fair stands out.
The 1962 World's Fair may have changed Seattle more dramatically than any other single event. It was an important time for the city and for Channel 5.
The Seattle World's Fair today gained the highest record. Included in that was the first satellite broadcast connecting Europe and America. A combination of efforts of all of the 3 networks. People in England participated in it. And our origination was from the fairgrounds live, and it was a tremendous step forward to think that we could actually broadcast from America to England, Europe, just like that.
Guess where I am? I'm on top of the needle. Oh, what needle do you think I mean?
Driving to work, driving home. Why not turn that everyday commute into a trip through the Vienna woods? Classic King FM can take you out of the ordinary and into the extraordinary world of great classical music. And the Vienna woods are only the beginning. Classic King FM at 98.1, the Northwest's only 24-hour classical music station.
Have you ever seen this man before?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever seen this man before?
Never.
Have you ever seen this man before?
Yes, I have, but I can't put a name to it.
His name is Hal Calbum, and he's the host of Channel 5's In Person, Sundays at 6:30 on King TV. In Person.
It's a Wednesday night taping session for King TV's Saturday morning magazine show for kids, Flash. It's only the latest in an amazingly long and impressive line of children's programs on Channel 5. Children have always been the focus of special attention at King, and the station's list of awards and achievements is a long one. The long-running How Come found a sizable number of adult viewers in its audience as well, and brought the storytelling talents of Al Wallace into thousands of Northwest homes. One of the first Channel 5 programs geared especially to the young starred a rope-slinging cowboy named Sheriff Tex.
All right, Smiley, we'll play something.
Jim Lewis began as a vaudeville entertainer. He found roles in Western films playing his own musical invention, the Hootenanny. But it was on his Safety Corners show that Northwest viewers best remember him.
Well, hello there, deputies. Say, I bet you young'uns is kind of wondering why I keep my guitar in the calaboose there, huh? Well, that shows that cannonball won't get a hold of it.
Today, Sheriff Tex lives on the west side of Seattle's Queen Anne Hill. He still keeps his Hootenanny shined up and still recalls the beginning days of his Channel 5 program.
I knew we couldn't have a lot of people on it, so I had to be all of them, you know, like the sheriff and the postmaster and the grocerman and the barber and the tax collector and the dog catcher and the jailer and everything. So I had so many commercials on my show, so I used to have to break into the commercial to do happy birthday to the kids or something like that, and then come back and do the commercial.
Happy birthday to you.
I couldn't remember everything that they had, you know, because I didn't have too much time to do them. So I just tried to remember the product that I was selling and my sponsor's name. And if I could do that, well, the rest I could handle no problem.
In the early 1950s, a remarkable children's storyteller, Ruth Prinz, held a weekly television reading class. But for thousands of Northwest viewers, Ruth Prinz will always be remembered by another name.
Wanda, Wanda is my name. Oh, boys and girls, I'm glad you came. We'll have fun as I explain how we play our Wanda game.
Wanda Wanda was aimed at a special audience of children, those not yet school age. It was praised by teachers and parents alike and was awarded the prestigious Peabody Award. Today, Ruth Prinz, a doctor in education, lives in Magnolia and is an educational consultant for daycare centers.
And it was wonder. We started with wonder. But of course, little children, many don't pronounce the R's. So that's how it got to be wonder, and then they doubled it, wonder, wonder. And that's how we began. So it really is based on education through entertainment. In other words, how can we teach specific things and have it be lots of fun? And we had one director, Bill Stevens, who liked to have animals. He ran across someone who had a lion. Well, the lion behaved himself pretty well, when all of a sudden he bumped my arm. Nobody was stopping this, so I went right ahead, and he ate my whole sleeve. But when the whole thing was over, and they said, "Oh, Ruth, you did so wonderfully." I said, "Yes." And I think I even stayed on key, didn't I? I said to the music man, and he said, "You changed key 5 times." We had a very good group of engineers who were interested in production and knew things to do. We did such things as blocking off part of each camera so you could have, 2 images. It was a great sense of immediacy, I think. But I always had the feeling that out there, they were right with me. Marvelous. Elliot Brown was the musician. When you got through, you felt this was something you had all done together. It was very exciting.
Bye.
5 p.m. and time for a big clubhouse meeting, gang. Here we go. Zero Dr.
Stan Borson's shows spanned 2 generations of young people in the 1950s and 60s. King's Clubhouse was the headquarters for cartoons, music, silly jokes, but most of all, it was Stan.
Bozo and Nomo and Tallulah and Victorola and Pepita and the whole bunch.
Stan Borson first appeared on Channel 5 in the station's first musical variety program. Called 2 B's at the Keys, Borson teamed up with Art Bardoon. Later, the show was called Clipper Capers. Today, Stan Borson runs a successful Seattle investment firm, but looks back fondly on his 18 years at Channel 5.
Well, I think, being it was a great period of time because it was pioneering, really. By today's standards, I'm sure everything we did was quite corny.
This is my famous painting. Wait till I read it.
this is a herd of buffalo eating grass, and you wonder where the buffalo is. Well, you see, they have ate all the grass, and they've gone to look for more grass.
Well, they were always playing tricks. We didn't, you know, I think that was possibly the charm of the show, was that so many things did go wrong. Because we were live, Doug Sederberg and I came up with a parody on Honeycomb, which we called Telephone. And I was supposed to be at the breakfast table. It was a mess with all kinds of, you know, dirty dishes and everything around. And so I put the toast in the toaster, and thinking it would pop out, and that would give me something to do, so I'd be buttering the toast while I was singing the song. Well, the toast didn't pop out. Instead, it stuck down there and started on fire. Ruined the toaster, and just another one of those days.
On the telephone. So we're going to go home and take a little rest. And thanks again, and be good kids. Zero Dr. Boocher, Proctor, Hullabalooza Bub. That's the secret password that we use down at the club. Zero Dr. Boocher, Proctor, Hullabalooza band. Now you are a member of the TV Club with Sand. Bye, gang.
Television's potential remains unmeasured.
It's never done all it should, all it could. But there's, you know, it's not through yet.
For Dorothy Bullitt's KING, the story of 35-year-old Channel 5 has always been a reflection of the community it serves as they've both grown up together. Moments of achievement, moments of failure, of triumph, and embarrassment. But most of all, it's a story about people.
I think people are the most important thing there is.
Remember I told you we were having a very interesting guest this afternoon, so I wouldn't tell you anything about him, on Friday. And speaking of guests, you know, Lydia and I were talking this morning about all the things that cheer will do for you.
I forgot to put my microphone on. And isn't that embarrassing? No sense making excuses about it, I guess. Page 2.
Was there two little ears? Two little ears? Two? Oh, Laffy. Two ears. Rabbits have two. See, like that. Do you want to be a telephone pole, or do you want to be a rabbit? Rabbit.
Hey, Bill Corcoran. Hi, Ray. This is Bill Corcoran from Seattle, your own hometown. KING, is that right? That's right, Ray. Sure. Well, look at the fella. No web feet. Remarkable.
And you know, there's one thing that the sheriff wants you to always remember. That anything that's worth doing at all is worth doing well.
The barometer is 2.7863. 1, 4, 3, 6, 5, 6.
Smell those fresh roasted peanuts.
No, nothing can penetrate this stuffy nose.
Oh, this can.
Hall's Methalyptus?
Uh-huh, with vapor action. Hall's vapor action has the power to penetrate deep into clogged nasal passages to help your stuffy nose feel clearer, while Hall soothes your throat to help you cough.
Hey, that's great.
The peanuts?
No, the Halls.
Oh.
For penetrating relief, get Hall's Vapor Action. And try sugar-free Halls, too.
The Bond's November men's sale brings to you quality gift-giving ideas for the holidays. Dress shirts and ties are always fitting gifts from $6.99 to $15.99. Sports shirts and turtlenecks for the Northwest look $9.99 to $14.99. V-neck, pullover, and cardigan sweaters at $14.99 to $29.99. And always popular accessories are also specially priced. For holiday gift ideas, it's the November men's sale at the Bond, where the choices are.
This is the Seahawks station, King 5.